going to be quite a show. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, very good. Wow. And I appreciate everybody hanging in there. This is one key thing when field day is preparation, making sure you have all the equipment, the personnel, food, all sorts of things. So when field day starts, you don't have to keep going back and forth to Walmart or to ham radio outlet and say, oh, I forgot the transmitter, or I forgot the antenna, or we forget a rope. But let's recap a little bit. Back in June last year, we started field day, and the year before that, the club finished out of 2,900 or so participants, individual entries into field day for 2016. We finished as a club 103. So the club got together and decided, hey, we have a lot of interference issues, we've got other radio issues, we have some personnel, all sorts of things, and we all came together and reduced the interference, and we climbed in standing to number 30. So we went from 103 to 30. We also set a club record for the amount of points. So we're going to try to do that again this year. So how did we do that? How did we do that? So we went from, let's say, the year of 2016, our count total was 7,010 points. Well, last year was 12,302. So like I said, how did we do that? We started with antenna leads. We set up a group that looked at the antenna situation. We had a group that looked at the interference. We had grounding, and we got feedback from across the club on what was happening. And one of the big issues for the club that I saw over the years was the interference. And we put filters in, we did some grounding, we put some new radios, and it makes a big difference. So you came here tonight to talk a little bit about what worked well last year, and that was cooperation and participation from the club. We had network issues that got resolved, and we had some radio issues that got resolved. In fact, even me, after 30 years or 40 years of building antennas and saying, this is actually going to work, we built some Moxon antennas, and you think they would work right off the bat? No, it's a good thing there was 24-hour setup time because we used every bit of it. And for those people that unraveled the Moxon when it first came out of the trailer and found that we had all these nice guy ropes and all this, the wires were all nice and rolled up. Well, when you try to unravel that monster, it became a big tangled mess. So I'm not sure who was with me when we tried to unscramble the things. We ended up cutting the ropes and actually restringing the Moxons. And the 15-meter Moxon, wow, it was working great. Ron was absolutely pulling those contacts out of there on 15 meters on Sunday morning until, guess what happened? Duct tape's a wonderful thing, but it only lasted, instead of lasting 24 hours, it only lasted 20. All of a sudden, SWR went whang. And of course, the radio said, we're not doing anything else. Ron looks up and says, hey, what's the driven element doing swinging in the breeze? Because the wire let loose. I'm going, oh. So I went back out into the woods and lowered the Moxons, and we put it back together and got it working. We only missed about 5 minutes worth, which was pretty good for antenna failure, and you're running at about 70 or 80 an hour on CW with a gentleman like that on the radio trying to, hey, let's going. In fact, the radio the computer was having so much trouble keeping up, he kept brushing against the mouse pad. That's something we're going to remember this year. Some of those laptops have a mouse pad right up here. Well, every time you brush it over, N1MM does not like that. And, and we end up typing call signs outside the window. So that's one thing we learned. We're going to disable the mouse pad. So for Ron and for me and some others that like to lean our hands on the computer. So that's, but what happened was we found out that, hey, field day can be a lot of fun. It also can be a lot of pressure. And it also, you can run into unforeseen health issues. So, I'm very allergic to poison ivy, and yes, there happens to be a lot of it at at Burke Lake Park. And boy, did I find a bunch of it. So much so that my eyes swelled shut for those people that saw me. Well, this year, I'm in preparation. I've got preparation here. This is Calamine Plus. So I got that, and I've got it labeled, so if anybody needs it, so we go from there. So that's one thing you learn. We had a first aid kit, but I'm not sure it had calamine lotion. It's the first time I've ever run into the situation where I actually couldn't really finish field day. In fact, if you look at the point totals or my contact rate plummeted after about 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning because I could barely see the screen because my eyes swelled shut. But I hung in there up to the end because I wanted to see how the club was doing, and that was just me. There were others that actually participated a whole lot more than I did. In fact, back in December, and if you could see this slide, we recognized some of the people, some of the station operators, the station owners, and we handed out ARRL Field Day 2017 pins, the club did, in recognition of the club spirit that was going on. And I believe you were not there when I gave that presentation, so here's your pin for being one of the club station operators. So that's recognizing people and bringing fun to the hobby. I'm not sure how often the club recognizes the participation in the field day event. They probably do, but I felt, and the club officers felt, that we needed to do something a bit more special because the club broke a record and no one got hurt, at least not that I'm aware of.
Unless you count your poison ivy.
Oh, yeah, poison ivy, well, you know, so I went to the Minute Clinic that Sunday afternoon, and they said, well, if your eyes don't open up, we're going to have to send you to the emergency room. I said, well, give me something a little better than that. So they said, take these pills and call me in the morning, and put some eye drops in. And the next day, as I pried my eyes open, I said, oh, okay. And then the swelling went down, and about, I think you can still see a little bit of a stain from the welts that I had on my wrists, but I'm back again. And if I have to go back in the woods, I'm going to do it. So you got to hold me back, though. But enough about me. Let's talk about what happened. Interference. That's one of the key things we'll be looking again this year. We had some problems on 20 meters, 20 sideband. 40 sideband actually not too bad, except we're going to get rid of that Morse code that you were picking up. We put stubs in. I know, yeah. We put stubs in and found out that although it worked, it got rid of the Morse, but it also injected trash back to this Morse code CW station on 40 CW. So we found out that the stubs, although they worked pretty good, they were introducing unknown elements and causing some sporadic pulses across the spectrum. So I'm not sure if I didn't use any on 40 CW. I don't know if you used any on 20. We tried it on 40 sideband, didn't really work so well. I don't know about 80-20, I'm not sure. Okay, so that's something we'll look into as well. You know, but we did find that if the antennas are tuned to the band and you're not using an antenna tuner, a lot of that noise goes away. So we'll try to make sure that the antennas are actually tuned to the particular frequencies, so SWR less than 1.4 or 1.3. Once we got up at 1.7, it found out we engaged the internal antenna tuner on your specific radio, and although it helped you, you were able to transmit, we found out that it was causing some issues with the other, not just on 40 CW, but others across field day. So, and then there's GOTA. Pete, you didn't generate much interference at all, and that was great. But then you had struggled because you only had a rotatable dipole and you made 30 contacts. I mean, and field day is not all about making contacts. It's about getting people interested in the hobby and coming back and doing it over and over and coming up with new ideas. We're going to look at the satellite stuff as a new idea. Yeah, I could stand up there and point the antenna up and try to work this. The satellite's going across like this, or over here, But that doesn't really help the club. I mean, it does help with the 100 points, but it didn't generate enough interest in the satellites, so we're going to try and have a satellite station, not just for getting the FM bird, but also the others that are out there, and use 2 meters and 440 a whole lot more than what we have. We had that beautiful setup for VHF that was underutilized. So for those that are interested in VHF, see me. I'm going to try and work that a little bit with, of course, coordination and approval from the field day boss. So, okay, we went stubs, radios, antennas. Oh, we didn't talk about antennas, did we? We talked about tuning the antennas, but are we going to change the antennas this year? That remains to be seen. Yes, for GOTA. We're either going to string up a 3-element 15-meter beam on a piece of rope, or we're going to look at a vertical. That I'm worried about a vertical because it may generate some interference with others, but we got to help you do a little bit better with your setup, Pete. I know it had to been frustrating a bit, especially for new people coming into the hobby, and that is getting and bringing them into the hobby. That's the face of this club. New people coming in, and they're looking at the Get on the Air station, and you're sitting there either on 10-meter phone or other bands, and you're not making any contacts. That's not a whole lot of fun. Although Pete, you made it interesting. I was very impressed with that. You hung in there with it, especially when we tried filters for you and other things, and it just didn't work for you. So this year, with the chairman's approval, we'll sit there and try to get you a better setup. And we're looking for a 15th CW station lead. I was the lead last year. I'd like to see someone else take it. If they don't, then not to worry. There'll be a backup plan for it. But not to put you on the spot, John, K3US, you're going to be able to?
I do have an update. Ian, N0IMB, has offered to captain the station. He's not a CW operator, but he's
all right.
To organize, control the tank.
We can work that. We can work that. Teach me for not paying attention to the reflector or the internet. Okay. So we've got the antennas. We're probably going to use the same things we used last year. We may raise the 40 sideband Moxon a lot higher and turn it a little bit further to the west, so you actually can work Texas this time. And we'll turn the one for 40 CW a little bit further south. So instead of working everybody in Canada, we actually work somebody down in Texas. Well, not Texas would be nice. So it's. My time really is up at 7:30, but again, we talked. I started a little late. The key is sign up for the sign-up list for the club chairman on what you're going to bring. Think about the connectors you need. Not that we need a connector for the presentation, but what we did was, I don't know how many times I went back and forth to Walmart or to, well, I can't go back to Radio Shack, was trying to get splitters for headphones for people to listen in. And we actually did that, got people to listen in. So well, hopefully by now, we've got all that down to a science, the boxes for each station. That's really good. It was one of the things I should have brought back to my former club in New Hampshire, because although they led 5A for years, they would have learned from this club on making sure that everything's together, because if it's scattered all apart, it makes a big mess. I know my presentation this morning, or this evening, is a little scattered, but the tents last year, oh, very nice. Very nice. I mean, that was nice. Are those going to be back again this year?
As far as I know.
Yeah, okay. We have enough rope, we have enough coax, we've got all that sort of stuff. And then the last thing is to bring excitement. If we're not generating excitement or fun, then something's wrong. We need to make sure people have an opportunity to operate, which is what we did last year, and I thought the club as a whole did a fantastic job. the club president, to the chairman, to the support mechanisms, to the person Pete, that got me a chair that I could sit down and say, hey, my butt doesn't hurt at the end of the field day. Of course, I couldn't see, but that's beside the point. But all that stuff, get engaged, get active, participate. We'll try to help you as much as we can. And that is, you don't have to be a 40-word per minute or 50-word per minute CW operator, or you don't need to be talking a mile a minute on phone, on sideband. Although this year, for those people that are on sideband, let's explore voice keyers or internal voice, so you can press the button so you're not screaming 24 hours at home. You're making contacts 24 hours. You're not screaming into the microphones and getting hoarse. So, I mean, the computer does a lot on CW. It does a lot on voice too. And when MM has all that stuff, even the 7300, the new radios have all that stuff pre-programmed. You press a button that says CQ Field Day, K4 X-Ray Yankee, and you get all sorts of things that happen. Now, those you can continue. You don't have to use electronics, but I would encourage that. So, if there's anything that people need during field day, I looked for people that either weren't operating or were sitting there and not talking to anybody, and I would sit down and chat with you, or maybe you're eating something that looked pretty good. And I said, oh, maybe we can sit down and generate a conversation. Again, it's all about having fun. If you have fun at field day, people will show up, and you'll have I mean, Ron, last year we dragged you from the kitchen after a fantastic meal. We sat you down on the radio, and you should have seen him. The smile was from the end of this room over to this room. And he was just having a ball. And same thing on sideband when there wasn't any interference. You could actually hear people. In the digital world, where's Doug? Back? Yeah. You were having over there, but I'm watching the digital stuff, and that's part of the hobby that I don't really know much about. I either do CW or whatever. On that happy note, thank you for your time. We'll go from there.